All right, Ramon, what's happening?
Yo, what's happening, Anthony?
Everything's good. Can't complain.
So I think that everything that I've talked about regarding the NCAA has been confirmed. If you look at the tournament, most of the teams that should have been contenders seem to have packed it in and don't care. And Loyola of Chicago is now in the Final Four, which is good for them. But once again, you should look at my plan to save the NCAA by privatizing it and making it capitalist. So
Mm.
for those of you that doubt it, I mean, just last week there was the Virginia game. Um, I think I think it's pretty ridiculous that a number one seed that they probably have a couple draft picks on their roster they couldn't hold on against, or they just fell apart against 16 seeds. So now you have an 11 seed in the Final Four, and there have been teams that have just melted like ice cubes, like Kentucky, which I actually usually root for Kentucky if there's nobody else left, but they're gone.
Right.
I think somebody's saying, yeah, there is somebody there. Villanova is still in the tournament, so that'll be interesting. And if Loyola wins, if they win the whole tournament, yeah, that'll be awesome. But I'm just saying, if you look at the symptoms, if you see top seeds and teams that are, number twos losing by like crazy margins, it's a sign that people aren't trying.
Right. I mean, but why do you think that is? Because why would a college team be tanking? I understand the NBA team, you want to try to get a high draft pick, but why a college team? What's the point in doing that?
I don't think it's the tanking in the same sense as the NBA. It's tanking in the sense that the people who are the key players on each team don't have their hearts
Hmm.
in the game anymore, because they're really they're looking forward to the draft, perhaps. I know in the case of Arizona, it's for sure. There's no doubt when Arizona got knocked out and they were destroyed by over 20 points. And they had two people who declared for the draft in the locker room after the game.
Wait a
They
minute. Wait,
just
hold on. So after the game, you had two guys that declared for the draft in the locker room?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, that was, I think that was more than a week ago. So I don't think people fully grasped the magnitude of it. And I get it, people. I saw the caller earlier. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Freedom Work, who I know I've chatted with him a couple times. Yeah, this isn't the most important thing in the world. I'm just pointing it out. So, all the people who watch my show, who also watch your show, they know that I kind of talk NCA a little.
Mhm.
So, I think that, I think it's kind of just indicative of how corrupt the establishment is over there, because they're having these people pretend they're amateur athletes, but who are you kidding? If they're not willing to play hard enough to win the biggest show in the platform, then I think it is a joke, and it's harder to enjoy March Madness.
Yeah, I understand.
As for the March, I was not watching anything today, so what was like the big highlight? Was there any like real freakouts from the March or anything, or what did the one that they called the skinhead lesbian freak out the microphone?
Well, not more than anything that you have heard before. It's just the same old stuff that, a little bit of dramatic cursing from the kids. Kind of like, the way that when they curse, it kind of reminds me of those random things you may see on Facebook of a video where you got these little kids cursing at the president. Well, F you, Donald Trump. I think this. That's kind of the way I feel like they curse. So the same old stuff. I didn't really hear about anything getting too out of control because the marches are held all across the country, in different cities. So this is the same old thing you would hear from a march like this. Not anything too out of the ordinary, as far as what I've been able to hear.
Yeah, I think that there's been a lot of march fatigue because people are marching all the time. There was a march for science, if you remember that, but it has nothing to do with science. It's just an excuse for people to be angry about something, and I think maybe this isn't the worst reason to be angry about something, a school shooting, but I think it's clear from the past 2 years that marching hasn't solved anything. They don't present a real platform for anything. I remember David Hogg was on TV probably last month saying that any sort of legislation would be a good thing. Well, they've passed some legislation in I think Florida and other states, and he's still out there whining like a character from Teletubbies or something. And it's like people are getting tired of the sound of his voice, and to see him on Twitter a week ago, that was really showing him when he said House of Cards was how he got his education in politics. And maybe it's not a bad show, but that's not the way that you get an education in how to affect the world. It's kind of it's a dramatized account of it that doesn't necessarily reflect the way to change the world. So I think that basically shows where these people's minds are. And the other lady, I remember there was an interview where she just wouldn't stop rubbing her eyes. So I'm not sure why people are taking these people as examples to follow. Now there's the other guy, Kyle Kashev, if you've seen that guy on Twitter, who's also a Parkland survivor. And what he does is he goes and meets Rubio and all the other, and I think he met Trump and Melania Trump and all that. And I think he kind of is a publicity hound, but he's not alienating people by doing that. He's actually, I think you could probably say that he's built a lot more out of his efforts than they have.
Right.
So I do have to get moving, but I did want to tell you that I released the third video on Farrakhan feminism, so I'll put the hashtag in the chat. And why is this the more important one? Well, the problem with Farrakhan feminism is that of course there's a contradiction between believing in women's rights and supporting somebody who says if you're a lazy woman who can't cook, you're unfit to be a mother. So I know I've kind of driven that point home. This time you have a press release from Malik Zulu Shabazz. You might know who he is.
Yes,
Anthony.
I do.
Yes, and he's an intelligent gentleman, but he's been on the news. He's been on RT a lot. He's been talking a lot about the he has this Black Lawyers for Justice movement. He has the new Black Panther Party, which is in fact a hate group. It's a hate group for a number of ethnicities, including Jews, but also towards Catholics, I believe.
Well, they got sued by the original Black Panthers because of the use of their trademark in the Black Panther Party.
Yeah, I think in the end though that it wasn't copyrighted. So
yeah.
But the issue is not here whether they're hateful people. The issue is here that in his effort, Shabazz is enlisting the help of the National Action Network, which is Al Sharpton's organization. So you have Al Sharpton, who is an MSNBC and WNBC media personality, who is simultaneously calling Donald Trump a racist and a bigot and an anti-Semite and a homophobe. But if you look at, and if you watch the video, Anthony, I sent you the video, by the way, in Skype, but if you watch the video, it's pretty obvious. The new Black Panther Party is bigoted towards all of those groups. They are extremely bigoted towards all of them, but not just them. Al Sharpton, in his past, he called Mayor Dinkins of New York the N-word. He also fought with another civil rights leader on TV and called him the N-word again. And then there was, if you look at it, he's been on tape. He called them the F word for homosexuals.
Okay.
So this is a person. He's on MSNBC. He's supposed to be apparently a reverend in some church, which if you look at Eddie Griffin's stand-up, he asks, where is his church? He doesn't have one. The fact is, you have to, if you guys see the video, please watch the video and start tweeting or putting out the hashtag Farrakhan Feminism at MSNBC with it. And I hope other people take a look and start producing their own content relating to them, because it's ridiculous that you have people like Hannity being called fake news and told to get off TV. And I don't watch Hannity, so I'm not saying because I like Hannity, but they're calling Fox News fake news. They're calling what's that other name? What woman's name? Heather Ingram or something? Laura Ingram.
Laura Ingram, yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of people on Fox News that are very opinionated, but nobody's been caught on tape in front of a live studio audience calling another person, an effing F word. You haven't seen people who have incited race riots in Crown Heights or things like that, and that's what Al Sharpton does. And now he's openly cooperating with groups that, one of them. You have King Samir Shabazz for the Black Panther, the new Black Panther Party, who did practice voter intimidation. He was restricted from any polling station in Philadelphia for 4 years because of it, and the new Black Panther Party suspended him supposedly because of his insubordination. Then you have him on tape, and I have it in the video where him and Malik Zulu Shabazz admitted that they had talked about it beforehand, that the suspension is basically part of God's plan and that they're going to continue the same way afterward. So it's the same thing over and over again. They want to talk about hate groups or whatever. They're the mainstream media. They're trying to censor hate groups and that's why, Anthony, you have to be careful. That's why I have to be careful so we don't get kicked off of YouTube. But, we want a freer society. They don't want a freer society, but they take those liberties themselves with their rhetoric. So please, if you can, share the hashtag Farrakhan Feminism and at the Reverend Al. I'll put that in the chat. And MSNBC.
No doubt.
So that's it. Sorry for mugging for the camera here with all the hashtags and whatever, but this is an interesting episode. And hey, hopefully we can get Reverend Al to do something and say, "Oh, I have nothing to do with this," and lie.
Well, we'll definitely see, man. Thank you for your call as always. Definitely appreciate you.
All right. Have a good evening, Anthony.
All right. Same to you.